Okay, we meet once again. You know, to keep our clients informed, I've been providing these market updates, get this, for over 30 years. It was relatively easy too, simply by analyzing a combination of trends and the fundamentals of supply and demand. Not so at all for the last 2 years though. Nothing's been normal. And since we last met, the world certainly has changed. Just look at the war in Ukraine. First though, I want to congratulate all the recent buyers and sellers. You were smart and you took advantage of the most extraordinary real estate market in history. And if you were a seller, most were fortunate to have sold your home in just a matter of days or hours and above list price. Imagine that. At the same time, well, buyers took advantage of the lowest interest rates ever. Yet, that was all yesterday. That was the past. So let's see where we are today. Well, interest rates are going to rise. That's a fact. How do I know this? Because the Fed told us so. This means today's buyers will be tasked with a more challenging decision. Here's why. When interest rates were as low as 2.75% just a month or so ago, it meant a buyer could purchase a home for $625,000, the average sales price in many of the communities around Fulsham. With 20% down and heavy principal and interest payment, or get this, less than $2,000. Today, the rates are fast approaching 4%. That means to keep the same monthly payment, a buyer could purchase a home for only $512,000. That's $113,000 less. Amazing. What about at 5% though? The price would only be $456,000. That means the buyer would get, are you ready? $168,000 less home with the same payment. Well, many may not remember, yet in October 2018, just a few years ago, interest rates, they did hit 5%. And the reason for the low rates that we've had recently, well, they were due to COVID. Now, inflation will be the reason for the higher rates. That's why buyers were smart to take advantage of such low rates. Now, those buyers that did, well, they're happily enjoying their new, much more expensive, grand homes. And because of the low rates, the home is affordable for the next 30 years. But there's a problem today, because we know tomorrow's rates will be higher. So, what are buyers going to do now? It'll be a much more difficult decision, yet it's mostly psychological. Here's why. I'll use stocks as a metaphor. If someone gives you a good stock tip when it's priced at $100, naturally most hesitate, and sure enough, the stock goes to 110. And they think, oh, I knew I should have bought, but since it already went up, you don't. Then of course, what happens? The stock goes to 120. And then you hit your head going, you know what? I knew I should have bought, not only when it was at 100, but I should have bought it at 110. And but of course, you didn't buy then either. Eventually, the stock soars to 200, and if you're like many, that's when you buy, right? Absolutely at the wrong time. Today, home buyers have a similar choice. They can choose not to take advantage of what are still very low interest rates. Or they can chase the market, always looking back each time as the rates rise even further. My suggestion, much better to look forward and not backward. Now, a little insight for sellers. Every market, whether good or bad, they all end. And I believe we're approaching the end of this historic market. In the short term, buyers will rush to buy before interest rates rise even higher. Then, what are buyers going to do? Buyer activity will slow, inventory will rise, and the market will become more competitive. That means home sales will soften and prices will no longer rise. At best, and we hopefully this, they will stabilize. So, just like with buyers, if you're contemplating selling, now's the time to do so. Why? Because the market, get this, it's at historic highs. It's at a high. And that's when you sell at a high. So better to not be looking backwards a few months from now, wishing that you had. That was the moral to the story. Anyway, I have good news though. I have good news. Our local market is complex, and it's not solely driven by interest rates and supply chain shortages. Our market, well, it's driven by oil. And high-priced oil stimulates the economy, which in turn will serve to offset some of the impact of rising interest rates. Good news. We'll just have to see by how much though. Anyway, that's the market today. May not be the same tomorrow though, changing quickly. Yet, if you're interested in buying or selling, we're certainly here to help you. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see what happens next month.
Be sure to like and follow Roller Realty on Facebook and Instagram.